Tudu. Hola, mis amores. How is your spirit today? I've been using the lo-fi sound on YouTube, y'all, and I be vibing. And I be vibing so hard that I I lose track of time, which I love for me because I am so excited about how I'm creating in my life right now and the things I'm creating. So I'm super into it. Today, I am very, very excited to kick off my series, A Book Worth Rereading. And this is something that I'm hyped about because these are books that have really transformed my life. These are books that I have read and I continue to reread over the years. So I am hyped about sharing with y'all these books. And the way I'm going to be doing this series is that we are going to read one book a month, or I'm going to review one book a month with you so we can really dive deep into the juiciness that is are in these books, and we can take it from there. All right. If you're meeting for the first time, hola mis amores. My name is Yenory. I am the go-to life coach to business owners that are desiring to prioritize mental calm and inner peace through spiritual self-care. And I love this work. I love it. It lights me up. It makes my life feel purposeful and amazing. So today we're going to be diving into books that I reread, because these are the books that have helped me get to the place that I am. So if you are someone that loves to read and you got a reading club or you people that you love to read with, tag them in the comments below so that they can come and be a part of the conversation we're about to have, because it's going to be a whole vibe, y'all. We're going to have a great time today talking about these books that are worth rereading, starting with my first book, which I love, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to be talking a lot about self-awareness today. And I did a training on self-awareness. Not even a training. I don't even know why I call it a training. I did a live recently where I talked about my biggest lessons from embracing self-awareness. As I'm talking through self-awareness, is for those of you that are watching, you start to feel like, I really want to embrace self-awareness a little bit more. I'm happy to share. I want to share that link to that video with you. Okay. So if you want to watch that video where I talk about my biggest lessons from embracing self-awareness, make sure you drop #icon in the comments, and I'm going to send you access to that video. It's going to help you a lot to see how powerful self-awareness can be, to see how helpful it has been to somebody else's life, so that you can see what's possible for you. It always helps to see representation of the things we desire to help us expand our mindset around what's possible, to expand into the place of possibility. So if you want to watch that video to help you embrace self-awareness, drop icon in the comments below and I'm gonna hook you up. I'm gonna send it to you. So let's jump into today. I'm just really excited to be here because I've been having these experiences in my life. I've been opening myself up to being led and being guided, and I've surrendered so much to get to this place. And these are some of the things that I've surrendered, are the things that this book helped me surrender. So I am grateful to be able to be a channel for this information to circulate so that other people can watch it, other people can receive it, and it can help transform the lives of others. It's truly a gift. All right. So back in 2018, I had a podcast. I still have this podcast. I haven't released episodes, but I have a podcast. Well, if you didn't know, I have a podcast, and I launched this podcast in 2018. And the title of the podcast is the Self-Trust Podcast. And at the time when I launched that podcast, I started to have conversations with women from the African diaspora. And these conversations were around helping me and helping them have an honest dialogue around what it is like to be a woman of the African diaspora living in America, and share some of the things that were impacting us in our journey to self-care. So During that time, I spoke to some amazing guests. Some of them are on here. You probably know about, like Tanya Rapley was on there. Janelle Stewart was on there. Janelle Martinez was also over there talking to me. I also sat with Ilber Sanchez. So a lot of cool people came and sat with me and had these conversations. I happen to be friends with many of them. And one of the guests that I had was this amazing woman from Philly. Her name is Delilah D. And when Delilah came on the podcast, she was this vibrant soul. Like Delilah's energy was everything, you know. She was just such a beautiful spirit. She was radiating light. Like I was obsessed with Delilah from the moment I talked to her and we started our conversation with the podcast. And this episode that her and I shared, she shared a lot about how she got there, because she said she wasn't always the type of person that was like excited, like that was happy and joyful, or that was looking at life from a very beautiful outlook. That wasn't always her story. And that was really interesting to me, because around that time in 2018, I was beginning to get even deeper into my own spiritual healing and my own spiritual journey. So I was very, very intrigued about how she got to this place. And I asked my guests at the end of the podcast, every single guest I have, I always ask them to share a resource that has been indispensable for their self-care. And I asked every guest, and Delilah shared the book with me, and she shared this book, and it was called The Four Agreements. And it looks like this. And when she shared the book, I was like, all right, I'm gonna check it out, because I'm like, I wanna get in on whatever transformation she had. So when I got the book and I read it, I was blown away, you guys. I was blown away because up to this point, in my healing journey, I still was very much thinking that it was about other people. I still was very much thinking that other people were making me feel some type of way. I still was thinking like it was on other people for me to feel better. I was still engaging heavily in the energy of people pleasing. I was still very much, I feel like a baby in self-awareness. And Delilah said that, share this book with me, and I bought it and I read it. And this book, The Four Agreements, changed everything for me. I didn't think that a book that was this small, this tiny, because it's really like, it can be a quick read. I didn't think that this book could really change so many things for me, but it can, and it did. It changed so many different things for me. And this is why this is my first book that I am sharing as a book worth rereading. Because ever since I purchased this book in 2018, and this is my 2018 copy actually. Ever since I purchased this book, I have read this book 2 to 3 times, if not some years, like 4 or 5 times in 1 year. That's how powerful this book is. And I couldn't think of a better book to kick off the series with, because when you can focus on a number of books and tools and really hone in on them and master them, you can get the results with a lot more ease. And when we start to read all sorts of things and we don't take the space to apply what we are learning, we don't get the results that the people in the book talk about, because we're too busy reading about them. And for us, that gives us a hit of dopamine, so it doesn't push us to make changes and to take action. So the premise of the Four Agreements, it's really simple. It's based on this concept of Toltec teachings from, I believe they are from Mexico. Yeah, from Mexico. And the author, the author, his name is Don Miguel Ruiz. And Don Miguel Ruiz, he comes from a family of healers. Like his family is known for being healers, which is still fascinating now that I'm sharing this with y'all, because my family is also known as a family of healers. So I am seeing some similarities between Don Miguel Ruiz and I, now that I'm looking at this from a different perspective and a different angle. So he writes this book after having a near-death experience. And in this book, he breaks down what are the core elements that his traditions, the Toltec traditions, share that are critical for us to live a life of freedom. Of freedom, not in the sense of material freedom, that too, but more so in the sense of internal freedom. And when I got this book, you guys, I was fresh out of that depressive episode I experienced for 8 months after my uncle was transitioned. And this helped me a lot because I did not feel free at that time. So there are 4 agreements that Don Miguel Ruiz states that we want to focus on. And I love this so much that my agreements are actually back here. I keep them next to me so that I can see them at all times. And I'm going to share them with you because they're actually listed here. So it's pretty, you probably seen this. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. And the fourth agreement is do your best. Now, when I read this book for the first time, I was blown away. I was blown away because so much of the Toltec teachings spoke to me. I connected so much with what Don Miguel Ruiz was talking about and this idea of having a smoky mirror. So one of the things that he mentions in the beginning of the book is that we all experience something like a veil. All right. He tells the story of this man that changes his name to Smoky Mirrors, a little spoilers, to Smoky Mirrors because he sees that people are under this dream and there's like a smoke that's clouding their ability to see things clearly. And he names himself Smoky Mirror to remind himself that that smoke is there so that he doesn't forget and he sees things clearly. And that's how the book begins. Okay. And that alone, when I read that, I was like, that is so true. That makes so much sense. It just helped me see that I wasn't seeing things clearly. There were things that JP was saying to me at that time, and I wasn't getting it or I wasn't seeing it from his perspective because of this veil, because of this conditioning veil of beliefs that I had learned to adopt. So the first introduction, the introduction of the book alone, y'all, the introduction of the book alone released massive value, lots of massive value, because that was an incredible reframe for me. Up to that time, I was still believing that it was people's responsibility to make sure that I felt good about myself. I was still believing that I had to people please in order to be loved. I was still believing that in order for me to live a life of freedom, I had to sacrifice myself. I had to be a martyr. I had to put myself last. And JP's cooking. And I also believed that money was going to solve all of my problems. That's where I was when I read this. Those were the beliefs that were swimming in my mind. And you can imagine how disruptive it was to those beliefs to read something like this. And then let's get into chapter 1, right? Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is called Domestication and the Dream of the Planet. Now this chapter, if the first intro, because we wasn't even in chapter 1 yet, if the first intro didn't change everything for me, this chapter took things to an entire snatch your edges type of situation. Okay. In this book, in this chapter, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about domestication. And he breaks down how we learn things. Here's what I have highlighted. We are born with the capacity to learn how to dream, and the humans who lived before us teach us how to dream the way society dreams. That hit me so hard because I had been that person that was living the dream that society taught me. I went to school, I had 2 bachelors. I had a master's. I was living in a beautiful high-rise apartment. I had a beautiful office with a door. I had a director title. I was married. Like, I was living the life. I had been the poster child for do things the right way and go and be a happy person and succeed at the game of life. And I didn't count with getting to the top of that mountain of success that I climbed and not enjoying the view. And when I read this book, I understood perhaps for the very first time why I wasn't enjoying the view. I saw things so differently. And then this is the thing, y'all. Like, when I saw that line about like me learning society's dream, I was like, wow, what is my dream? Like, what is the thing that I'm really into? Like, am I in alignment with that? So many questions I began to ask because I became so curious about what this thing meant because it makes sense for me. And let me tell you something. There's a quote that I've heard many times, and it's what's real can be threatened. And there's another quote, a hood version of it that is like, real recognizes real. And I could tell that Don Miguel was spitting fire. I could tell that he was not playing with us, that he was giving us the real tea. So I continue reading. And this is a line that I underlined. Attention is the ability we have to discriminate and to focus only on that which we want to perceive. We can perceive millions of things simultaneously, but using our attention, we can hold whatever we perceive in the foreground of our mind. The adults around us hooked our attention and put information into our mind through repetition. That is the way we learn everything we know. That alone is the reason why this book is worth rereading. Being reminded that you learn through repetition. This was a powerful aha moment for me because up to this point, I was really focused on being someone that I thought I had to be. And what I realized about beginning to change who I had been, beginning to release patterns of behavior, beginning to see myself differently, beginning to embrace learning about myself and healing and releasing things and accepting things about myself. What I learned was that a big part of that process was going to be learning and unlearning. And I wanted to desperately know how to unlearn things because up to that point, I had an obsession with having to get everything perfect right away. One that I am currently and continue to release. So when he said you learn through repetition, everything made sense to me because I realized that there were things I learned subconsciously only because I did them all the time. I was around people that had beliefs that they engaged in regularly. So I adopted some of those beliefs because they were around me all the time. Like, do y'all see how wow this is? Do y'all see it? This is why this is so powerful. This is why this book is a book worth rereading because we got to be reminded of these things. We have to be reminded that number one, everything is a dream. There's a line of conditioning. There's beliefs that we have been taught that are impacting how we're showing up in the world. And number two, we need to be reminded that we learn through repetition. So if you want to unlearn something, it's about interrupting the repetition of it. And if you want to learn something, it's about adopting repetition of it. And the only way we can do that is with our attention. So it's very important that we're giving these things our attention, that we give our attention only to those things, only to those experiences, only to that energy that we desire to amplify. Let me just drink some water because we got to sit with that, everybody. And what happens? Here's what I've learned. Here's where I learned, you guys. We are not being conscious and intentional about what we give our attention to. We're not. And that has a big impact on us. Like when I feel off, when things are not moving in alignment, they don't feel in flow. Because I love to be in a state of flow. I love to be calm, mentally, and full of inner peace. That's when I create my most amazing work. That's when I am able to serve my clients in the most powerful way. It's when I'm flowing. You know what I'm saying? And if you know what I'm saying, you got to come over here and work with me so you can know what I'm saying. And because I love flow, I can tell very easily when I don't have it. And when I don't have it, it's usually because I am focusing my attention on things that do not serve me. And that is a lesson that I learned from this book. And right now we are on chapter 1, baby. So we're not going to go through every chapter because, she ain't doing that. However, I want to share something else with you. In this book, another reason why it's worth rereading is because here, Don Miguel Ruiz brings our attention to death. I think about death a lot, not in the sense of me desiring to end my life. I think about death in the sense of me desiring to be at peace with it, with the idea that everything transitions, everything goes through cycles. And there are moments when those cycles come and it feels very easy, very calming, and very seamless to transition them. And there are moments when the cycles of death come where it can feel really hard. It can feel very difficult to release things. So I'm always thinking and I'm always sitting with this idea of transition and how can I be more at peace with it? How can I be more at peace with the fact that things change and that I will grieve them, whether it be people, situations, relationships, and I can continue living my life with calm. Because when I experienced death in 2016, I wasn't prepared. I was depressed for 8 months. I didn't really know what to do. There wasn't no manual for me. So I spent a lot of my energy and my attention into what that peace can be like. And one thing that I can tell you is that this book can help you a lot with that. Because Don Miguel Ruiz does a great job of bringing you back to the reality that you are going to transition. And this is why this is a book worth rereading, because we forget sometimes, because we don't want to think about that stuff. It's uncomfortable. It's icky. And that is the exact reason why it's important that we do. And that we are paying attention to these things. So in part 1, because it's going to be a 3-part series this month, we're going to meet on Thursdays. And today I wanted to introduce you to the book. I wanted to tell you how I learned about this book. And I also wanted to give you an insight into why this book is so powerful in the beginning. Like you don't even got to go deep in the book, because sometimes you feel like I got to go read this book for so long before I start getting the gems. From the moment you hit the first page, Don Miguel Ruiz is hitting you with the gems. And if you're the type of person that's desiring to embrace self-awareness, this is the type of book you want to have in your corner, because it's going to support you in seeing yourself from a different angle. And most of us have a difficult time doing that. So for the person that's ready to embrace their self-awareness, though, I want you to know that this is an amazing decision for you, because to be honest, your life is going to transform to the degree that you allow your self-awareness to expand. If you're not willing to see yourself from a beautiful light, your life won't be able to shine that light to others, because it's not going to be there. So what I did this week, I actually recorded a video sharing the biggest lessons I've learned from embracing self-awareness. Self-awareness has been one of the skills, the techniques, the muscles I've strengthened that has helped me the most. Being able to see myself from a position of leadership, from a position of uncomfortable honesty, being able to see how I act versus how I think I act, deciding how to act and doing it with compassion, that alone has changed my life. And because of that, I desire for more people to experience it. And I know that there are some people that have a difficult time with self-awareness because they feel like self-awareness is icky. When you start seeing some ish about you that you don't like, You be ready to fight yourself. You be ready to go in on yourself. And a lot of us are really good at that because we have learned to critique ourselves in the form of motivation or with the desire to motivate ourselves. So, or in the name of motivation is what I want to say. I recorded that video because I want you to see that there are some beautiful things that happen when you embrace self-awareness. I want you to be aware that when you gift yourself your attention and you put it on how you are acting versus how you think you're acting, there are going to be some gems that are going to come out of that. And that's going to help you change. It's going to help you release those layers that are keeping you from being the fullest expression of who you desire to be. And the people that I attract, they desire more calm. They desire mental calm and inner peace. That is the number one thing they want to prioritize in their lives, especially business owners, because you've done the thing. You made the money. You know you could do all of that. Now is, can I do it with peace? Can I do it with inner peace? Can I do it feeling good about myself? Can I do it feeling good about my body? Feeling good about my mind? Feeling good about my heart? Feeling good about my actions? That's the people that are attracted to me because that's the energy I'm on. And that's why I recorded that video, because I remember what it was like for me when I began to see myself with uncomfortable honesty. It stretched me. It stretched me beyond anything I thought it was going to stretch me, to see that I was behaving in patterns that I was judging. It really stretched me. And I would have found it extremely helpful to have someone share what was beneficial about self-awareness to them so that I can move with a little more compassion on myself. And that's why I recorded that video. And those of you that desire to watch it, I highly recommend that you do watch it because it's going to support you tremendously. Drop #icon in the comments below, and I'm going to send you the link to it so that you can take a look. And as you begin to see yourself more deeply, you can hold space for your heart, hold space for your transformation, and do it with ease, with calm, and with compassion, because that's what this is all about. So drop #icon in the comments below, and I will send you the link to that video sharing those lessons, because I know you're going to find it extremely helpful. So that was part 1 of a book worth rereading, The 4 Agreements. Oh, such a gem. Next week, we are going to meet again. And during next week, we are going to talk about the agreements themselves. I'm going to share with you my journey through these agreements. I'm going to go through which agreement has stretched me the most, and how I've been able to continue to engage in that practice and to adopt these agreements with myself and with others with more calm and with more enthusiasm, because sometimes it can be difficult to do that. So I'm going to be sharing with you my journey through the 4 agreements and how I've been able to navigate them in the past 18, 20, 21, 22, 23. In the past 5 years. It's been 5 years because it was in April 2018 that I picked up this book for the first time. So I'm going to be sharing with you what that's been like and which agreement I'm stretched by, which agreement comes to me the easiest, because I also feel like it's going to help you a lot to receive and to see what that can look like, what the possibility is for those of you that, want to apply more of what you learn in this book. Excuse me. Oh, okay. That was something. So I want to thank you for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. Let me know if you have any questions about the 4 agreements, anything that you would like me to cover in our second part that is next week. We're going to meet on Thursday next week, and we're going to go through my journey through the 4 agreements. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you. My name is Yenory Pouncil. I am the go-to life coach to business owners desiring to prioritize mental calm and inner peace, prioritizing the spiritual self-care. And I'm here to make sure you see things clearly. I'll see y'all next week for part 2. Hasta luego.